Okay, students, it's time for your English tip of the week.
Welcome, students, to this week's English Tip of the Week, where we are looking at IELTS tips to help you get a 6 on the speaking test. And this week, we are looking at pronunciation. Pronunciation. Now, remember, there are 4 elements of the speaking test that you must score a 6 on in order to get a 6. Fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and now pronunciation. We've been looking at fluency, vocabulary, and grammar in past episodes. So if you want to scroll back, you can find out how to get a 6 in those episodes if you didn't listen. Pronunciation is kind of the forgotten brother. Nobody talks about pronunciation, especially teachers. I do not hear a lot of pronunciation being taught in IELTS test preparation courses. But pronunciation is at the same level as grammar and fluency and vocabulary, where I know many students are worried about fluency and grammar. So we're going to take a look at the 4 most important tips. I'm doing 4 this week for pronunciation. And to me, pronunciation is the key. If you can do very well with pronunciation, you're going to score higher on the IELTS exam. But first, remember, our show is sponsored by Study It, ESL textbooks. You can download them, do some self-study with them. They are digital, they are interactive. StudyItBooks.com is the place to go to find those textbooks written partially by myself and many other authors as well. We have contributed to the Study It series. They are amazing textbooks, best used on Apple products. So if you have an iPhone, iMac, iPad, MacBook, any Apple product, they can download them into the books. They're interactive, digital, videos, keynotes, audio, pronunciation exercises. Yes, they are available on the Study It books. Okay, so let's take a look at pronunciation and our 4 most important tips. So first is chunking, all right? Chunking is very, very important. Now, what does chunking mean? Well, chunking means, in English, is kind of like a natural pause in your sentence. So sometimes teachers like to say there is a comma, and that is kind of a natural pause. What we don't want is robotic speech, okay? So we do not want robotic speech where you say something like, this would be an example of robotic speech. My favorite movie star is Jackie Chan. I like Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is great because he is very funny. Okay, that is robotic speech. There's no intonation, there's no breathing. It's just individual words or individual sounds. So chunking would sound something like this. My favorite movie star is Jackie Chan. Pause, because he is incredibly funny. Pause, but I also really like Julia Roberts. Pause, even though she's a little bit older. End. Okay, so did you hear how I chunked it out? So my favorite movie star is Jackie Chan because he's incredibly funny. All right, just taking that one sentence, I've made 2 chunks, and those 2 chunks are excellent, very strong pronunciation. Rather than saying, my favorite movie star is Jackie Chan because he is incredibly funny. There's no chunking going on. It's just singular words. So we don't want you to do that. We want to hear chunking when we are listening to you in the speaking test, okay? I think I was speaking very robotically just a minute ago, like that. All right. Next, we want some rhythm and intonation, okay? We want a little bit of rhythm and a little bit of intonation. Doesn't have to be perfect in level to get a 6, but we want some rhythm and some intonation. We do not, this is very important, we do not want you speaking too quickly. We do not want this, okay? My favorite movie star is Jackie Chan because he is incredibly funny. Okay, that's way too fast. All right, that is not what we want to hear. All right, we want some rhythm and intonation in there. All right, so my favorite movie star is Jackie Chan because he's incredibly funny, all right? Incredibly. There's a little intonation. But I also, all right, intonation up. But I also really like Julia Roberts. Even though, intonation, she's getting a little older. Again, a little rhythm. Now you see the flow of that sentence. All right. Now, of course, I am a native speaker. I understand. But for you, if you're trying to get that 6 on the speaking test or higher, we want intonation in there. All right. We want some intonation. So if you listen to that sentence, there were some intonation words. So he is incredibly funny. And when I say incredibly, my voice naturally goes up. He is incredibly funny. And I really like Julia Roberts. Again, my intonation goes up. All right. Just naturally, there are some natural intonation words where your rhythm and intonation will go higher. All right. Oftentimes we use things like awesome, amazing, horrible, terrible. Okay. Or the best. Intonation goes up. So it just even adding some of those little intonation words will help you score higher on the pronunciation part. All right, next. If you cannot say certain words or certain sounds, it's okay. It's all right to get a 6, all right? You don't have to be perfect with the sounds. I know many students have a TH sound, okay, a pronunciation problem with TH. Japanese students have the LR sound difficulties. Korean students with the P and the F and the B and the V sounds. We know as IELTS teachers and the IELTS examiners know as well that you have cultural difficulties with certain sounds just because of the way your country language is produced sometimes doesn't always translate into English. So if you do have a problem, and I remember one student of mine had a terrible TH pronunciation. He could not get the TH sound, just nothing. It was terrible. It was awful. And it was so terrible that he knew how bad it was, and he would get very, very frustrated during the speaking exam because he couldn't use or say the TH sound. So when he came to a TH sound, he would say it wrong, and then he would just kind of give up. Oh, I gave up. I failed my speaking exam. So I would say to him, you didn't fail your exam. You have one problem, okay? You're not going to get maybe an 8 or something like that. You have a problem, but that is your only problem, okay? You only have a TH sound. That's the only sound that you can't make. Otherwise, your pronunciation is very clear, okay? So if you have a specific problem, LR, PV, TH sound, try to avoid those words. Number one, that was my advice. Just don't use them, okay? But sometimes that's not possible. You may even want to say to the examiner, oh, I'm sorry, my TH sound, I have a problem saying TH. And that recognizes that you have a difficulty and you're aware of it, and it is something, you're not mispronouncing this word because you don't know how to do it. You're mispronouncing it because you have actually a physical problem with your tongue and your mouth and your air, and you just can't do it. And that happens. So don't be afraid to say that during the exam, all right, if you have a specific sound that's giving you trouble. But don't give up on it. Examiners understand, okay, that you may mispronounce some words. That's not going to kill you, all right? That's still going to get you a 6. And last, number 4 tip is that we can understand you. There's not much effort, okay? We can understand what you're saying. It's generally clear. There may be some words that you make mistakes on or some expressions that you make mistakes on. That's okay. Generally, if the examiner can hear you and understand you, that's going to help you to get a 6, all right? And you'll be able to know that when you are practicing with your IELTS teacher. I mean, if the teacher can understand you clearly and you're making your words and your sound and your rhythm and your intonation fairly clear, that's going to get you a 6, all right? Now, remember, you have to have all 4 of these points to get a 6, not just one. You got to be good at all 4 of them. You got to be good at chunking, all right? Chunking is so important. I cannot stress how important chunking is. Number 2, you need a little rhythm and intonation in there. Again, So important. If there are two things you remember from this podcast, chunking and rhythm and intonation. Mispronounced words, some mispronounced words are okay. We all make some mistakes and it's acceptable, and we understand that there are cultural errors based on your language trying to change it to English language. We understand that. And number 4 is that generally the examiner can understand you without much effort. All right. So those are the 4 most important tips that I can recommend you to improve your pronunciation score and help you get the 6 on the IELTS exam, the speaking exam. And that is our IELTS tip of the week.
Have you downloaded the Study It ESL textbooks yet for your classroom? The Study It textbooks are the first ever digital and interactive textbooks. Once downloaded, Wi-Fi is no longer required. Each book contains video and audio exercises, detailed grammar keynotes, reading and writing assignments, and amazing speaking projects. Grammar, conversation, pronunciation, business English, and listening textbooks are available. Visit www.studyitbooks.com for more information.